Hi, Sprinkles. So today I wanted to give you a little bit of a look into what folks are going to be voting on in my Instagram stories for the month of January to February. I've decided that I'm going to do these probably every third Saturday of the month, just to kind of give me a little bit of wiggle room as far as like dates, times, what have you. I'll have my Instagram in the description if you want to go follow me there, see my makeup looks. But I wanted to share what I've got. So we'll start with what I chose as my two neutral palettes to be voted on. Now, I chuckle a little bit because to someone who loves neutrals, these are probably not neutral palettes. But to me, someone who loves color, these are neutral. So they're both from What's Up Beauty. This is the Desert Monsoon palette. I believe this was their first eyeshadow palette. It's got like raised lettering. Mine's kind of seen some things. So I've had this for a while now. But we'll open it up. And as you can see, there's, a few like matte brown kind of shades in here. And then the rest are shimmers. It's a shimmer heavy palette, which I do love. And to me, this feels very neutral. It does have, like a bright blue, which might scare some folks, but I really do think this is a beautiful neutral palette and you can kind of do a lot with it. So I want to use it more. Then next up, we have their Geodes palette, which I gotta say, I really love the art on this one more than the Desert Monsoon. The Desert Monsoon's fine, but this one it's got like the holographic kind of part of the geode in it. I really like it. This one definitely has, to me, more of a neutral vibe than the last one, even though it doesn't have more like brown shades in it. It's just like these two shades are really pretty for a neutral look. Even this one's a very like neutral duochrome kind of shade. I don't know, something about it just seems a little more muted, I guess. Maybe desaturated is a good way to say it. Both of my palettes, I will say, look pretty unused. And that's because when I got this, I actually got them as a 3-pack with the Dragon Eye palette that they have. And that one is hands down my favorite. It's so colorful and the shimmers are so great. So, really, what I'm trying to do is decide which one of these to use and then how much I like it. So, do I want to keep it in my collection? Do I really need both? Will I use both? Things like that. So, I'm kind of putting them head to head, seeing what people vote on to want to see me use, and then kind of reevaluate throughout the year if I want to use them more. Next up, we have two flower palettes from Lethal. We have the Night Flower and the Wildflower palette. These are both palettes that I had on my wish list for ages. And so I'm so happy to have them. This one was a gift from my sister-in-law, which I love. She wears a lot more cool tones than I do, and I think that might have influenced her on getting me this palette. This one is one that I purchased myself. These were purchased by myself as well, not given as gifts, but purchased by myself. But I love this palette. I think it's so gorgeous. I think it's so fun. The colors just speak to me on like a fundamental level. Here is the Night Flower. And as you can probably tell, it looks like some of these shades are a lot more used than other ones. And it's actually because I purchased these 4 shades before I had this palette because I knew I wanted them. So I purchased them on their own. I think it was like a sale Lethal was having. But this is the Night Flower palette. And I really do love this one. It's really nice if you want to do like a purple smoky eye, but you can also do something a little lighter with the two kind of more like light nude shades. It's got some pretty blues down here. I do love this blue as a liner. It's very, very pretty. So I have those for people to vote on as well. Then last but certainly not least, I have my 2 custom palettes for the month. And these are something that I talk about in my Get Ready With Me video a little bit, is that I want to dupe certain palettes that I didn't buy for whatever reason. So For these, it's actually two Pat McGrath palettes that I just never picked up because the price, and I go into it a little more in the video where I make these palettes, which was a blast. But these are so this is the Sublime palette, and I'll try to input my swatches of this palette because I've already swatched it. Really, the majority of these shades actually are from Glaminatrix. All of the circle pans are Glaminatrix shades. And I'm hoping that when my order arrives, I'll be able to swap out the other 3 shades for Glaminatrix shades because I think that'd be fun. Kind of do a Glaminatrix only version of this palette. That's the Sublime palette. Then the next one was actually the most surprising to me. And again, I talk about it more in the video where I make them. But this is actually based on the Utopian Dream palette from Pat McGrath, which when it first launched, I thought it was a lot more like pink, purple, with like, some hints of gold. But it's actually really red based. Like this is a red. I believe this one is a little bit more of like a cooler tone pink in the actual palette. But these are kind of meant to be like my version of these palettes. And I'm really pleased with how they came out. I think they're super fun. I think they're definitely more my speed, obviously. They're shades that I already own, so I know that I like them. But I'm really excited to see which one of these gets picked. And then the one that does win in votes will actually go into my quarterly box of eyeshadows to use. So the one that doesn't get the most votes will still get used. It will just get used in the monthly box. But as far as what I have for my quarterly box, one of the items is not here yet, which it's in my Glaminatrix order. It's their Barely Basic palette. If I think about it, I'll put a picture here. So the Barely Basic palette is what I have chosen to be my neutral palette for the next 3 months. So from January to April. So as I said, I'll be using the Barely Basic palette as my neutral palette for the upcoming quarter from January to April. But for my colorful palette, I've chosen the Nomad New Zealand Stargazing. I picked this up during their Black Friday sale. It was on my wish list for the really entire year last year. From the time it was announced to when I picked it up on Thanksgiving, it was 100% on my list. This is a color story that speaks to me just in so many ways. I think it's gorgeous. And I normally am not a blue eyeshadow person, and this has, a couple blues in it. But something about this just does it for me. I think it's maybe that you could combine the blues with like a neutral color. You could use like a black to kind of deepen it up. It's not just blue. And of course, the shimmers in it, gorgeous. I can't wait. So I'll be digging my hands into this later. Then the next one that I have is what I consider to be like my wild card kind of palette. And it's usually a brand that I've either never tried or it's like a brand new palette, kind of doesn't really fit into another category. So this is also one that I had on my wish list for about a year, which is the Basic Witch palette from Bella Beauté Bar. You can kind of see the B logo in it. I really like it. This was on my wish list again from the time they announced it, but I had never tried this brand before. And it's a pretty hefty price tag for a brand I've never tried. It's a $69 palette, and it's gorgeous. It's everything I wanted it to be. It's everything I thought it would be. I will say I have already used it, as you can kind of tell. I've already used it once, but I couldn't resist. I already knew it would be a part of this box anyway, so I figured why not give it a try. So if I think about it again, I'll post a look that I did with it in here. But this is my wild card palette. I really plan to kind of stress test this, use it as much as I can, definitely try to do various looks with it. I really want to see how I can incorporate this green into more of the more looks. So we'll see how I do with that. But that's the basic witch palette. But that's about it for my monthly and quarterly box for January. It'll likely be a shorter video in February since I won't be talking about my picks for the quarter, but I might show progress on what I've done with them, how I've been using them, how I like them so far. But yeah, I believe that's everything that I have. Let me know in the comments, are you someone who tries to use things like quarterly, monthly? Are you someone who maybe you only have one eyeshadow palette? Maybe you have two? Tell me about that. Tell me how that's going, because it couldn't be me. I admittedly have a lot of makeup, and I'm looking forward to sharing how I use it. So tell me in the comments how you are. Do you plan to use makeup? Do you reach for the same things over and over? Are you someone who wants to use an eyeshadow palette up once you open it? Because again, couldn't be me, but I'm fascinated. So please tell me down in the comments any of those things. Tell me something cool that happened to you today. And you know what? I hope something great happens for you today. I hope something good happens for you. And I hope you take care. And yeah, I will see you at another time, Sprinkles. Have a good day.